report fines are included on page 31. Lemon Bernowski retainer is included on page 32. Current debt schedule is included on page 33. And then I need a couple resolutions. First one to accept the 21-22 budget modifications on page 34.
I'll make the motion to accept page 34 resolution.
I'll second that, Kurt.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I just want to point out on that, we're moving money out of the contingency budget. We started the month at $159,642. There were several items, the most significant of which was the new fire chief's vehicle, which was purchased for $56,059. So you'll see in the reconciliation on page 34 that our contingency budget has been reduced now to $91,333. As Pat explained to me earlier today, it's our outside auditor's opinion that instead of taking money out of the unrestricted reserve accounts, if we have a contingency balance, we need to draw that down. It's really 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It's fine. We have the funds available. So that's the long and short of that. I'd also just want to make a mention on the revenue and expenses year to date.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Okay, good.
Yes, but these are the yacht club. Can you call back?
Oh, that's okay. I'm at a Zoom meeting that should last about an hour or so.
Okay, well, why don't you call?
If anyone who is
Whose
not,
call is that? Who's,
can somebody please, everybody please mute if you're not speaking.
okay. On page 26 and 27, I'd just like everyone to note, we have a budget of revenue of $2,322,000, and year to date, we're at $2,031,000 and change. As importantly, on the expenditure side, we had budgeted expenditures for this fiscal year of $2,322,000. To date, we have expended $1,269,000 and change. We have the month of February, March, April, and May remaining in the fiscal year. And in June, we'll be tackling a number of May bills as well. So I just want to thank everyone with budget responsibility and ask you just to keep up the good work of staying within budget. Thank you all. Okay, Pat.
Okay, and the last resolution I need is to transfer $3,175.80 from the Sinkin Trust and Agency account to the general fund.
We have a motion to that effect, please.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second Maureen.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and just the last bullet item on the treasurer's report, there will be a NICOM meeting, which I'm attending early February to discuss the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act funds reporting. We have some expenditures we've made that fall into that criteria, but I want to wait until that meeting and discuss them in February, what we're going to move out of there.
I think that's wise. And just to refresh everyone's memory, during the summer, we received the first of 2 annual installments of the ARPA funds of $88,000. Next year, the second and last annual installment will be of a like amount, $88,000, that we're going to be receiving under the ARPA. Pat will be attending this seminar to learn some further nuances of the law as it was initially distributed to villages and towns. The use of those funds, it was not really clear, and I'm hoping that by Pat attending the seminar, we'll gain a deeper, clearer understanding of what these funds could be used for. Then we can decide how we're going to disperse this year's, how we will expend this year's allotment of $88,000. But all very fortunate to receive that. Any questions for Pat as treasurer? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to the abstract report. These were circulated on Thursday. I've initialed off. I'm going to ask everyone who has not, with the exception of Maureen, who's out of the area, please come in by Thursday and sign off and initial the vouchers for this month's abstracts as well as last month's, if you didn't get to do last month. We want to keep that current. We want to make sure that all our abstracts are reviewed by all the trustees and initialed off. So any questions on the large abstract 2570 through 2577 that was circulated on Thursday?
No questions.
Mike, do you have a question?
No questions.
Okay, I'm sorry. We'll look for a motion and a second to approve those abstracts.
I'll make a motion to accept the abstract.
I'll second the motion, Jim.
All in favor? Aye. And then we've had several bills come in the intervening time since Thursday, contained on abstract 2578. I believe, probably about 10,943. Is that the correct one?
$5,375.14 on abstract 2578.
I'm looking at abstract 2578, and I have $10,943 is what this says. We've got police department emergency repair.
That's not an abstract.
No, there's an abstract, Richard.
I see it right after.
2578 that we need to approve, and then
These are going to
additional
be
bills.
additional in addition to 2578.
That is correct.
Okay, very fine. So let me misstate. I misstated and I apologize. The subsequent bills on abstract 2578 total $5,375.14. May I have a motion and a second to approve payment of those?
I'll make the motion, Maureen.
Second by Jim, all in favor?
Aye.
And lastly, we have a request for approval of minutes of bills that have come in the last day or two, totaling $10,943.74. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bills in total. May I have a motion and a second to approve those?
I'll make a motion to approve the additional abstracts.
Second by Jim, first by Michael, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Very fine. On item 6, Gene, we'll have the attorney's report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We delivered a written litigation status report to the trustees last week. As you indicated earlier, we worked with you and Pat and Verizon to put off the hearing. And, that was down to the last minute, because although the governor signed the bill last Friday, it was not officially released until this morning. And Lindsay had to get on the phone with the governor's aide and litigation status person and say, we have a village board meeting tonight. If we can't confirm that bill is signed, we're gonna have to go virtual or adjourn or something else. So that was down to the wire. And the last thing, sort of down to the wire as well, I was out of town for the weekend last evening, the grant guys, and I did give that a preliminary markup, which I believe I transmitted to the trustees this afternoon. And Lindsay gave me the usual, not rider, but we have, as Pat well knows, a standard, even though it's not a bid, instruction to bidders with form contract. So what I intend to do tomorrow or the next day, work with Pat, is to embody many of the protective measures contained in our standard form contract that are absent from the draft which the vendor provided. They include, of course, insurance, defense and indemnification, choice of law, all the usual I would call it boilerplate, but some of it is important. So we'll try to work that into a rider and get that done in the next day or so.
That's good. I'm going to ask Chief George Gavaris, who's on, to join in on this conversation. We have Jim here, who is our grant liaison, and I've asked Jim to be responsible and run with this, and he has. He's had extensive conversations with the grant guys, and I believe with Jennifer Massiano. But I want to get George's take on the relationship that we have with grant guys. Time obviously is of the essence. The deadline to apply is Friday, I believe. I also believe from conversation with Jim, they have all the information from us that they need because they were the grant specialist who assisted Nissequogue, St. James, and Nesconset in securing the successful recent large radio grant. So all the demographics, all the data that they needed from our department, they already have. I'll ask George if you would weigh in, and Jim as well.
I guess I'll go first. As far as I'm concerned, after my last conversation with them, they needed 2 more bits of information, which was very easy to get, which was total call volume for 2021 and the operational budget for the current year. And both of those things are very, easily attainable. As far as like what's left to do for Friday, I believe once the village agrees to go forward, Pat was the point person with regards to registering for a particular site with the federal government. She needs to take about 10 minutes of her time. She has to reach out to the gentleman, Tom from Grant Guys. And then at that point, he'll walk her through on how to register properly and then add them as a user so they can upload the documentation on your behalf. But I think that's it.
All right. Then we have the issue of the contract, which they had submitted to us. And not only were there several slight grammatical errors, I'll say, but conceptual concerns that Gene and Lindsay have expressed, none of which I believe are deal breakers, but I hope these guys are reasonable and understand that we do need to have our village attorneys review this and make the recommendations, and that they're able to accommodate us. All of this in the remaining 3 days, of course.
I think they'll be willing to, like as stated before, they worked with us previously. I'm sure that documentation was probably included in those original agreements from the past grant. So I would have to imagine that that's going to be the case.
All right, Jim, I would ask you to reach out to them. You've already spoken with Kevin, is one of the guys.
Kevin and Tom.
Kevin and Tom, just to explain that, it's certainly our intent to push this forward so that they do have this application filed by the deadline, whenever it is on Friday. What, is there anything that you can add to this topic?
A couple things. One is, I think Gene can weigh in on this, but there don't seem to be any large significant issues relative to the contract, but there are a lot of acronyms that need to be kind of clarified for him. And I wonder if George could just go look at this and clarify some of the acronyms for them if they need it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Number 2 is that once we're kind of finalized on the contract or the application itself, I think it's pretty important for George to take a look at it and make sure all of the information they're using to apply is truthful and legitimate. That's on the application. And the third thing is that it's not combined with any other fire departments or any other villages. We're singular in this application. So, the general consensus with the grant writer or with Jennifer, the grant writer, is that if it's a single agency applying, if these guys really know what they're doing, we'll get it. But it's unlikely that we will get it because of that. So we are going to put $2,000 into the application fee. I think we're taking a shot with that and to see how we do with these guys. But I think that I don't know what the chances of us actually getting this grant are, so just to modify expectations.
Would you be sure to send a copy of the marked up contract to George, just to worry out all the acronyms that you and Gene referenced? George, one, for instance, all caps. There's reference to SAM, S-A-M, and there's just industry acronyms that Gene and Jim just need to understand, I guess.
Sure,
I'm
no
sorry?
problem. I can
Oh,
review it in the
Pat has sent
morning.
it? Okay.
You can ask George, he's got it. George, do you have it already?
I would have to check my email. I know I saw something come in. I don't know if it's the marked or updated contract, but I know I have at least one of the contracts. I don't know if it's the updated one.
Pat, did you send it?
I sent it this afternoon, about 5 o'clock,
You
5:30.
should have it.
Okay, excellent.
And Chris got it, so I'm sure that you must have got it also.
No problem. I'll check my email.
And please, George, please take a good look at it before the application goes in, if you can, just to make sure that all the demographic information and the statistical information from the fire department is legitimate.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Good. Okay, Gene, do you have anything else that you have? How are we doing on the two litigation matters? Are we getting any closer to reaching a settlement?
I would like to think so. I'm the eternal optimist. It's been adjourned many times. It's been difficult. Joel Markowitz has been working on it with the applicant's attorneys. And, you know, there may come a point, I hate to say though, Mayor, where we just may have to interpose an answer and let the chips fall where they may, because we're.
Yeah, as I mentioned, and I think we're probably all aware, both those parcels, the home and the two parcels, are actively being marketed now as a single parcel. I think I shared that with you, Gene. I think I had sent you multiple listing
Yes.
on that property to both you and Lindsay.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Mayor, just so I understand, if we could return to the grant guys again, is the board intending to approve it this evening, subject to these revisions and subject to the incorporation of the usual clauses set forth in the village's standard contract?
You're talking about the franchise
guy.
agreement?
No, the grant guys.
Okay. So you're looking for, I'm sorry, your question has to do with us approving it?
I don't know whether you intend to, I hear of some deadline. I'm sorry, you know, I came to this only this afternoon and only spent
Yep.
a relative short time. So I don't know the context exactly, but I understand there's some deadline for submitting this to Albany. So, you know, or whoever it's being submitted to. Are you going to act on it tonight, or are you going to wait for the revisions to be accepted and then retroactively approve it at the next meeting? In other words, we have a proposed
But let's
contract.
talk about this in concept. So what has to happen, and Michael, as the commissioner for the fire department, can weigh in on this, but some of this equipment is either going to be outdated or is outdated. It's a safety measure. These are the scuba gear. It's not the bottles, but the harnesses and the regulators, everything that you wear on your back when you're going in a burning building, for instance, or at a car fire. And very, very important piece of equipment for the fire department. So we can go out and we can spend the money out of our reserves and buy it, or we can try to get a grant. I think it makes sense to attempt to get a grant. And that's what we're looking to do here. So I don't know if there's any questions. Michael, anything you can add to that, please?
No, Mayor,
No,
I
Gene-
wasn't questioning the merits of it. I just procedurally, I
I'm not-
understand.
I'm not hearing, I'm sorry.
I wasn't questioning the
looking to
merits
make a
of this grant. I'm just, I know nothing about it, to tell you the truth. What I'm questioning is
Can I
whether
say that-
procedurally you intend to try to get this contract wrapped up before Friday's submission. That's what I want to know.
Yes,
He wants to know, we want to do a resolution with the, you know, the approval of George's review and I guess, Donahue's review. So he's
Yeah.
looking for resolution, Bob.
You want to make
Am I
that
correct?
motion, Mike?
I'll make the motion to accept the contract pending the review of the chief and I guess whoever's reviewing it.
All right.
No, but Michael, it's more than that. It would have to be subject to the acceptance by the vendor of the amendments proposed by the village attorney to their contract and the incorporation of the village's normal clauses in the village's standard vendor contract. And if they accept that, I suppose you could approve it now, subject to their acceptance.
So, yeah, but it's also to our review. Sorry, subject to our review and the vendor's acceptance of our changes to the contract. Close enough?
Close enough.
All right, Mike, is that a motion?
That's a motion.
All right, do we have any discussion? If not, we'll look for a second.
I'll second the motion.
Jim has seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'd just like to state one thing, Richard and Gene. I've met these gentlemen a number of times at the radio meetings. They're pretty legitimate. I apologize for their short tracking of terms. They're using firefighter terms basically, and that as you said, the acronyms, and they shouldn't have done that, but they're so used to working with fire districts and firefighters that they have a tendency of doing that. If you
I
could call up
understand.
their phone, if you call their phone and you hit their answer machine, you'll have quite a hilarious laugh. They have a tendency of being very light about things, but they are very successful. From what I'm told, a lot of districts have used it, including
Well,
Comac.
The fact that they worked in getting the three departments to put in a joint grant and a very significant grant award that we got for the much needed radio equipment, I think is certainly to their credit, and I don't think it's an easy thing. And these guys specialize in firematic issues, whereas Jen is more of a generalist looking at overall municipal affairs. So I'm more than willing to try getting some assistance in funding this. This is not an inexpensive item that we have to purchase. We do have to upgrade and update the harnesses and the regulators and such with the scuba packs. And I think it's worth the initial application fee of just shy of $2,000 to attempt to get that. So, all right. I'm sorry.
Just want to state what the grant amount would be and the expenses against it, just so everybody knows at this point in the game, or it's $121,000 grant. We put $2,000 down. We have to fund 5% of it. So $5,000 is going to come out of our pockets for the payment of the remainder of the money toward the scuba. And then in addition, if the grant is awarded, there's a 3% management fee on the awarded grant that the grant guys will do to manage it. So that's, 3,000 plus 600, about $3,700 in addition to management fees if we get the grant awarded. Those are the numbers.
That's right. And it limits the amount of equity that we need to put in the $121,000 purchase. So it's, I think it's well worth it. These guys have, the first time we used them in conjunction with St. James and Nesconset, it was very, very successful. Saved the village a lot of money. So I think it's worth it. Time will tell. Gene, thank you. And thank you for Lindsay. I'm sorry, we just got this information on Thursday. They got it to us late. So we're trying to accommodate all concerns here and make sure that we meet this Friday deadline.
So I have one
I understand,
question.
no problem.
Jim has a
I have
question.
a
I'm sorry.
question for Gene is, Gene, where are you going from here? You're going to go over the contract again and get the contract for the grant guys? You want me to do it?
Well, what I'm going to do is, as I said, Pat is very familiar with our bid package, in which is a standard contract for bidders. This is a little different because it's not a bid, it's professional services, but be that as it may, I'm just going to take the standard form of contract, which has provisions for insurance, venue, record keeping. There's a lot of legal requirements now about, you have to have a anti-sexual harassment policy, all this stuff. And I'm just going to make that a rider. So I'm going to define in our standard contract, their grant application as the bid proposal. And then I'm going to append our standard to make sure it's consistent. And I'll send that to you, Jim and Pat, and I'll send it to all the trustees, whoever you'd like.
And we'll submit that to the grant guys.
And I'll try to get that done.
But like you two, you're the point person with them representing the village, so.
And I'll try to get that.
You
done
and
by-
George actually, but yeah.
I'll endeavor to get that. done by-
Please stay close with George on this.
Okay, I'll look for that information, Gene, and I'll get it to them as soon as you get it to me.
Okay, and I'll try to get that done by close of business tomorrow. And by all means, I guess we should share with George and, the team here to make everyone on the same page.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Gene.
You're welcome.
Gentlemen, the acronym SAM means Systems for Award Management. It's what it's used in the fire service. So Systems for Award Management, that's what the SAM spec means when you says SAM.
Okay, what I suggest there is that you guys know what it means. It's just the first time any of these acronyms are used, just say whatever you just said and then parenthesis SAM. That's all that needs to be done.
Right.
Okay. We'll iron those out. Great, thank you. We'll go to item number 7 with Pat for the village clerk report. We have 7 or 8 items to go over.
Okay, page 1 is the January, February calendar. Page 2 is the immediate action list from December. Page 3 and 4 is a resolution to post and publish the offices and terms to be filled for the June 21st, 22 village election. I need a resolution.
All right, so on page 3 of the village clerk's office report, rather, we have a proposed resolution. You'll see we have 2 village trustees, each with a 2-year term from July 4th, 2022 to July 1st of 2024, and 1 village justice with a 4-year term from July 4th, 2022 to July 6th, 2026. So I would like to ask for a resolution. I'm sorry, for a motion to pass this resolution for village clerk to give public notice of these 3 spots, 2 village trustees and 1 village justice.
Make the motion. Jim.
Second, Maureen.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And page 4 is just the Spanish version of the resolution, which also has to be published.
C.
Okay. And then page 5 is a resolution that we continue to use the hand-counted paper ballots in the June 21st election.
I like the large font size, much easier to read. All right, so we'll look for a motion to approve the resolution for the continuance of the use of hand-counted paper ballots in the June 21st, 2022 village election. A motion, a second, please.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second, Michael.
All right, Kurt and Michael. Kurt first, Michael second on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Then we'll look for a motion to approve a resolution. I'm sorry, to authorize the village clerk to post and publish the village budget work session on Saturday, March 5th, 2022. Someone just check that date, please. Calendar handy?
I have one in front of me. That's Saturday, the
It
first
is
Saturday
Saturday.
of March.
In the book, it says 2021. Everyone knows it's 2022. I just want to make sure that is a Saturday.
Yeah,
March 5th. Right, Laura? That's good?
correct.
Okay, so we'll look for a motion and a second, approve the resolution authorizing village clerk to post and publish the village budget work session on Saturday, March 5th, 2022 at 9 a.m. at Village Hall.
I'll make that motion. Kurt?
Thank you.
Second, Maureen.
Second by Maureen, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Page 7 is just a copy of a notice of public hearing for the town of Smithtown for zoning code change.
Got it. Thank you.
Lindsay had suggested that we pass the resolution to post and publish for local law 1 of 2022 for the ability for the village to exceed the tax cap limit if we need to, once we do our budget work session.
Yeah, I like this. So it would be a motion approving a resolution enabling our village clerk to post and publish local law number 1 of 2022 for the purpose of exceeding the state mandated tax cap. So it's not our intention to do so, but from an abundance of caution, I spoke with Lindsay on this. I think in most years we do this. If we get past the second Tuesday, I think it is in April, it's too late. There's no looking back. We can't. So just as an abundance of caution, I'd like us to pass this. So this would be a public hearing for next February, next month's meeting. We'll look for a motion then approving resolution.
I think it should be from March.
You want to do it for
once
March?
we-
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, because that way we'll have
It's
a
still
better
before the
idea.
April deadline, so yeah.
Yes.
You want to do it then, that's fine. So the resolution would be to authorize the village clerk to post and publish public hearing for the consideration of local law number 1 of 2022 regarding giving the village the ability to exceed the tax cap. We will only do that if we believe it's necessary. So I'll look for a motion and a second on that.
I'll make that motion.
And a second,
Second, Maureen.
all in favor, please? Aye. Okay,
And the last 2 pages of that section are a summary of the sexual harassment training and the compliance with that.
I noted on the immediate action list, one of the bullet points that I'm responsible for was to research alternatives for the annual state mandated sexual harassment training that everyone has to go through. Every volunteer, every employee of the village, inclusive of police, the staff, the various planning boards, Board of Zoning Appeals, on, and the fire department. And I have left, we've played a little phone tag. A gentleman who's an attorney in Port Jefferson does this to municipal and large corporate groups, to municipal groups and corporate groups. So more information will be forthcoming once I have a chance to speak with him and to meet with him. But the idea being, it might be simpler just to have 1 or 2 meetings, maybe at the firehouse in the bay for all the firemen, and then maybe a second one for all the employees if it's not too, onerous and long. We're just not getting anywhere near 100%. Most of the village boards, the village staff, the police, 100%, but we're lagging with the fire department. And it's just something that we could be criticized for and not getting as close to 100% compliance. So more to come on that, but I just wanted to give everyone an update. Okay, any questions for Pat on village clerk matters, please?
I actually have a question, Rich. I'm sorry. With regards to the fire department, can we get a list of who's still non-compliant?
Yes.
Chris has been given that list, but I can forward you another copy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to say easily half the members have not.
Well, I'll be a little more diligent in getting that done.
I believe so. Yep, okay. Okay, so we have the village clerk's report. We'll go to department and committee reports. Poor Mike Fazio was waiting out in the cold and dark here. And retreated to the warmth and comfort of his home to get on the YouTube, I'm sorry, to get on the Zoom call. So Michael, I'm going to ask you to lead off. That is on mute. That is on mute. You'll need to. Who can lip read?
There we go.
I can.
I started to say it's really great to see everyone once again.
Good seeing you,
really-
Michael.
I really had it on my mind to make sure I attended this first meeting of the year. Haven't been around a long time. In any case, the Board of Zoning Appeals has a couple of things going. We have a work session coming up next Saturday at which we're going to review a continuance of the Pheasant Run, number 5, I think it's number 5 Pheasant Run property. It's a demolition and a rebuild and a continuance, and we'll be kind of looking over that new proposal, which I've seen, and it's much more palatable, let me say, than the first proposal. And the other case that we're dealing with is number 4 Beach Plum Lane, which is a simple extension, but because of the zoning requirements there, small pieces of property, and the original building that was there was 1977. Variances were granted back then, basically for the same thing that they're asking now, which brings up the question, like perhaps the trustees need to look at zoning in that area. We seem to be getting not a huge number, because there's not a huge number of lots, but we're getting cases where people are having to ask for variances just to put a suitable size home on the lots that they have, because all the lots are undersized. It makes it very difficult. But over the years, things have changed there from kind of summer cottages to fairly exclusive homes, and variances have been granted over a large number of years. I think the first one I saw was back in 2003, but even previous to that, there were variances granted because of the size of homes that people needed and that were adequate, in terms of the financial investment that is involved there. Most lots would require a 16-foot ranch, and even that is not acceptable in the village. I think a ranch has to be 1,800.
That's all in the R1 district.
Yes,
Your
exactly.
suggestion makes a lot of sense. I know I've had a few discussions with Joe Arrico on this, and I think there's a lot of merit to what you're suggesting, Mike, as far as we as a board taking a look at what might be more reasonable, such that when people are looking to put a small addition onto their home, they're not always having to trip the hot wire and go before the Board of Zoning Appeals and on and on. Joe, is this something that you can work with us on? It's not anything that's going to happen in a week or a month, but I think solely within the R1 district, I think it would make sense, as Mike is suggesting, that we should look to revisit this and see what some of the requirements as far as setbacks and such might make it I won't say easier to overdevelopment, but easier for a family to put a slight bump out, or if they want to raise something on their property. What do you think?
I agree. I think it's a good idea. We should sit down corporately and go over each lot in that area. The R1 is not that big anyway. So once we look at the overall lot square footages, then we can determine what would best suit the village's needs.
Who would like to, who on the board would like to work with me and with Joe on this and Mike to come up with some ideas that perhaps we can get it to a point where we bring it before the board in a work session to discuss whether we're going to make some changes to the R1 zoning classifications. Is there any trustee who would like to work on that?
I would, it's Michael, I would.
Except Michael. Is there anyone? Never mind.
Hey, I'm the guy with the little, I'm the guy who believes a little house.
No. Go on mute. I was only kidding.
Need to have the cottage.
All right, so
Have rich people living here.
I would suggest that it really is a simple matter and really deals with simply the sideline dimensions. It doesn't
Yes.
seem as, at least the cases that I've seen, frontage or distance from the road or their front line and back line really ever presents a problem, but their sidelines definitely do because of the current limitations.
all right, Mike, I'll chat with you offline with Michael and we'll get some further ideas, but Michael and I will be working with Joe and with you and see what we can discuss and what makes sense to revisit that, because I know what you mean. Most of those lots were formed many, many years ago. And if someone tried to put up an extension or even a garage or anything of that, they would just immediately violate the side yard or whatever. They're very small lots. And let's see what we can come up with without, having overbuilding. And I don't think any of us is looking to have overbuilding in that community. But I think you're absolutely right that we should be keeping an eye out on this to not make it so onerous for our fellow residents in that area.
Exactly. Yeah, in this particular case, they're bringing about a terrific improvement in the lot and what they propose to do. And they're not asking for anything other than what had been approved in the past.
I understood.
And that was, as I said, 1977.
Yeah.
So it's a
Well,
good
those
number of years.
two, that one at Little Africa and the application on Pheasant Run, will they both be considered on January 31st?
On January 31st is only a continuance of the hearing for 5 Pheasant Run.
Okay.
On January 29th is going to be a final consideration for which I do not really see an issue for Beach Plum Lane.
I got
what
it.
they would
Okay,
like.
so really just at the end of January, the 29th and 31st, you and your board will be considering those two then.
Right. I think we have 2 other cases that are pending as far as incomplete application, and that is the 5-foot fence on Short Beach Road. I haven't seen it, but I understand there's a 5-foot fence there that Joe tells us about. And and there's a swimming pool on us. I don't remember the name of the road, but
Okay.
someone's seeking a swimming pool that's probably out of the shadow.
Probably
Nothing
so.
unusual.
Yep, good. All right, do we have any questions for Mike and the Board of Zoning Appeals? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
Thank
My
you for
pleasure.
being on.
Thank you.
Dominic, we'll go right to Highway Department.
Hello,
Hey, how are you? You're looking good.
thank you. Okay, not much has happened because of the winter time, but we did all of our normal stuff around the village. That would be the receptacles, the storm drains. And we still haven't started up the completion of the village preserve.
He said no.
You did?
He just said no.
What did you say?
He said, I
Can
want
you hear me?
to come look at the walls.
You guys hear me?
Now I do, yes.
Okay. No, I was hearing someone else talk. That's why I stopped.
I heard it also, right.
Okay. As I stated last month, we had a delay at the Village Preserve to complete that project. As soon as we get some clear weather and the coordination with parks, we'll complete that. Nissequogue River Road, as I reported last month, we will pick that up again in the spring as soon as the weather breaks. The other thing we were talking about a skid steer equipment. And I did some preliminary information from the same vendor that Parks Department uses. And they gave a rough budget of 2 different machines. One being a CAT model 242 D3, which was $59,000. And the second was a 262 D3, which was $65,000. Both of these are with a high velocity pump. So in the event that we decide when we get the machine that we want to use it for doing some milling when we have potholes and such around the village, you would need that high velocity pump. The 242 is rated at 2,400 pounds and the 262 is rated at 3,000 pounds.
Yeah, I'm working on it. How we got dumped out of the meeting, it happened to me also.
Jim, are you on?
Back on.
You guys hear me?
I do.
Okay.
Oh, I got dumped out also. I don't know why.
You're all back on.
All right, good.
Hang on, Dominic.
The town of Smithtown did a real good job on the January 7th snowfall.
Thank you.
I think RJK did a good job at Village Hall, except for all the gravel they took out of the way, which now we have to get put back. And
I don't know. I'm going to leave the meeting.
also, we reviewed regrading of, I looked at this with Dan Falasco. There's a project going on at 611 Horse Race Lane where they're putting up a new home and they're creating, they're regrading the property, they're installing all the storm drains, but there is an issue with where the water that comes off that hill reaches Horse Race, where it crosses the roadway. In reviewing it with Dan, one of the options that we talked about while they're building that project up there was creating a pathway where the water now would cross further west on Horse Race in line with the existing storm drain. And we think that this here will, between the storm drains that are being installed, the driveway apron cut that'll accept water, and rerouting this water to go further to west before it crosses the roadway in line with the existing storm drains that are on Horse Race will solve that problem.
All right. We've been bumped off 2 times, so I think I've heard most of your report, but not all of it. But I want to get back to the skid steer loader. You had mentioned that you had gotten some pricing on the machines that the town parks department uses. Joe, what brand are those?
Caterpillar.
Caterpillars, yeah.
Okay, the pricing that I got when I called H.O. Penn, which is the largest Caterpillar dealer in the Northeast, they're on the state bid list. I spoke to their corporate sales manager up in Kingston, New York, at their Kingston, New York facility, that one of the models that you referenced, it's the 74 or 75 horsepower, high capacity. He indicated it had a list price of 59 or 60,000, and because it's on the bid list, it's we get a 21% discount, so that makes it really $48,000. I think that's the machine that I think we're going to get.
Well, you're the mayor.
Back here. All
So
right.
I guess you didn't hear me.
I did not
That's why
hear
you're
you.
the mayor. They give you better numbers. Listen, if you could forward me that information, I could get exact equal to equals on both of them for us. And
Yeah.
then put it together and send it to you.
I would like to do that. I think what I'd like to do, if we are able to go off the state bid list, I think it
Oh, absolutely.
simplifies the process a great deal. Now, as far as delivery, I asked him about delivery, given the challenges that we all have in getting rolling stock and equipment. He believes that we could get that in April, maybe May at the latest, and I think that works really well with our schedule. I also have shared with Dominic and with Stephen and with the chiefs of the fire department. I'd like this also to be available to the fire department in emergency times when we have trees that come down across the roads and all. I think it can serve the village in several capacities, certainly primarily through the highway department with the whole scope of what Stephen and Benjamin would be doing with Dominic, but also available to the fire department to move large trees and things of that nature. If we don't have that, these guys will be out all night cutting up very, very large trees. And I think that recent incident that we had right down Mauritius Road from the village hall, where a neighbor came down with his skid steer loader, I think it opened my eyes on what we can do. So I think this is a machine that's going to prove very, very beneficial to the village, not only in the highway department, but in the fire department and emergency responses such as road closures and trees coming down, which have been an increasing frequent event here in the village. So what I'd like to do is ask for a motion and a second authorizing the purchase of a skid steer loader off the state bid list at a price not to exceed, I'm going to say 55,000. I've done the math, and I'll give Dominic all the contacts, but I think with that 21% off, and again, no sales tax, on and on and on. And we would get it right here at the H.O. Penn dealer in Holtzville. Caterpillar is an extremely reputable brand, and H.O. Penn is a fine dealer. They've been around since 1927, 1928. They're a great service department. I've had a lot of experience over the years with them. So I open up that for discussion. After that, I look for a motion and a second.
There's a discussion. Are we getting a trailer with it or no trailer?
That was my question. Okay.
Well, we will have to get a trailer.
I am looking into that. I am
Next
looking into
question.
that.
I don't want, I don't think if we're going to do work, say down at the Village Preserve or at the end of River Road up at the other end, although it could ride on the road, I think when you're taking a machine like that a distance, you should trailer it.
You don't want to blow it up. Exact. Next thing, how are we funding it? We're not taking out of the, I guess, our funds for the fire department and for the highway department out of their actual working funds. We're
It's
taking
going to
out a
come out
separate-
of the contingency budget.
Okay, that's two questions you answered. Thank you, Richard.
One of the things I've looked at very, very carefully and ardently over the last several months, trying to anticipate what our equipment expenditures will need to be over the next several years is, well, the basic question, how do you pay for this? And I'm looking at the level of our reserves. We're just under $1.3 million in unrestricted reserves. And as I've mentioned to many, our outside auditors recommend we have 15% of our budget set aside, a minimum of 15%. The state controller's office recommends 25%. And I think we're very close to 60% over. I think we have an abundance of reserves. These are village taxpayers' money that have been accumulated surpluses over the last number of years. And I think given the great team that we have in the highway department and most certainly in the fire department, I think an instrument such as this, a piece of equipment, could be put to great use to enhance our village. Certainly open up roads a lot quicker, but there's a lot of work. And speaking with Stephen Demas, who's our crew chief in the highway department, has been with us 10 or 11 years. He's been asking me for a skid steer loader for like the last half dozen years. I think we've reached the point of financial strength that we can afford that. So I just want to, full disclosure, I do think that we have the comfortable capability of affording this. Okay, any other questions? If not, I'll look for a motion and a second then authorizing the purchase of up to $55,000 of a skid steer loader from the state contractor bid list.
I'll make the motion, Jim.
I'll second it. Kurt?
Kurt, second. All in favor, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Dominic, I'll speak with you tomorrow. I'll give you the gentleman's name and phone number up in Kingston and the information I downloaded from the state bid list on this particular apparatus. As I said, it's 74.8, almost 75 horsepower. And one of the things I think I had discussed with you and Stephen, as the need grows and we see other things it can do, it takes upwards of 60 different attachments. So that this particular model can do a wealth of other jobs for us if we choose. Okay, good. Dom, you have anything else? You deserve a rest after all the work that's gone in the last half year around the village between all the different projects. So enjoy a little downtime in the winter, and we'll be back busy soon enough.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe?
Yes,
Joe,
sir.
we go with building department. I'm going to turn to your report. Just bear with me a minute. How are you feeling, Joe?
Doing better. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank goodness. Doing wonderful. And I just have to reference one thing before Joe begins. I'm sorry. It's something I always like to see. It's on the financial report. We budgeted building permits for the full year that we're currently in of $54,500. Thanks to that wonderful research that not only Joe, but Barbara in the building department did and presented to us in a spreadsheet of how outdated so many of our fees were. And we passed a resolution in the last year updating a lot of our fees. So against a full year's budget of $54,500 to date, the building department has brought in $114,070. So outstanding, Joe.
Thank you. And it's a good group with Barbara and Brian. This month we took in fees 18,856. And working with Pat, we have our TNA account updated with some people that were short money. So that was put in. That's not part of the 18.
On the TNA, on the matter of TNA accounts, equally important, I don't know, you may have already covered this with Pat, but we have some stale ones that I think should be returned to the members, but we need a sign off, not only from you, but from the planning board in most cases so I think the planning board looked at that list, but they didn't know. I sat in on the last planning board meeting. They did not understand the rationale or why. They just saw the list. So I think it would be important to include in a memo to the planning board, lapse, not happening, give a little explanation, a little meat to the bone on each one of those requests. There weren't many, but the Keeleys, for instance, that's not happening. It's 5 years stale. We should return that money to them ASAP.
Right. So I talked to Dan today. He was supposed to come in, but he got tied up. So he's coming in Thursday to accurately look at the list. He went over it with me today. So to your point, he's coming in Thursday to discuss that list with me. Okay?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, you and I had spoke about that. So as you look down the list, it looks like the deuces are wild. That we had 2 permits, 2 renewals, a lot of 2s in the first start of the categories. We issued 4 summonses. We went out on 3 complaints. I worked with John Valentine and his staff during the week in regard to a problem on Old Mill Road, which was an unfounded problem on a complaint. So that all worked out. And I also spoke to John Zolo at length on Monday. Unfortunately, John was ill for court this past week or last week. And we're going to step the heat up on several summonses that have been outstanding. And Mayor, you and I spoke about it on Saturday.
Yes.
So I did talk with John about what you and I talked about with John Valentine. And so you saw those complaints. Also, the Quinn House on Stillwater, that contemporary looking house that has been, no construction has been on in 2 years. They came in and we're working on a renewal plan for them. Their renewal fees are around $8,000 and they're going to start construction on that home again. The other home on Stillwater has started construction and we've been doing vigorous inspections on that. And the house on Artesian Way has sold. Construction has started on the vacant house there's been no work on 3 years on that project. Also, the house on Yen's Way, which is a very large house, has started framing. And the house also off of Northfield is basically almost done. We have 3 big renovations that came in for 3 big jobs the past week. And basically we've been busy, and for the winter time, we've had a lot of inspections. Usually now it slows up a little, but other than that, we've been pretty active, so it's been good.
I know that you are, and the building department's doing a great job. You've got a wonderful team with Brian and Barbara there, and I know how busy you are. So I want to thank you for that, and thank you for agreeing to work with Michael, Mike Groskoff and myself, Mike Fazio, on this issue of looking at some of the zoning ordinances specific to the R1 district at Little Africa or East Long Beach.
Okay.
I think that's probably long overdue.
Okay, and that's about it.
Good. Do we have any questions for Joe? Okay, thank you very much. We'll go right to George and the fire department.
All right, Rich, call activity for the last month was 22 total calls, 13 EMS, 3 fire, 1 outside fire, 4 false alarms, and 1 call was canceled midway through. We received 1 ALS for an ambulance call. We needed medic 45 to come in and sedate a patient for transport. And we gave 1 mutual aid standby to the Smithtown Fire Department for a working fire. I believe it was two mornings ago at about 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
They had a fire off of River Road, just on the other side of Edgewood. But overall, call volume is higher. We had a lot of much greater increase in frequency of COVID calls, especially at the beginning of this month. Seems to quiet it down a little bit with that. The county has also changed their dispatch procedures for COVID, so we probably won't receive as many calls just because they're not allowing transport to hospitals for routine cases. That's it for the call volume. I wanted to thank the trustees. The truck has been received. It's awesome. And I think you've seen it. I know you've seen it, Rich, Michael. It looks sharp. We're waiting for a couple other things to come in on it, but I can't tell you, it's an excellent, excellent truck.
Well, it sure beats driving your own personal vehicle to calls. So
No, very appreciated.
long
Thank you.
overdue.
The chief's car, the former chief's car that's in the parking lot, I understand from the previous, earlier in the meeting. When is that vehicle going to be taken possession of? We have a few things left to be stripped out of it. I'll make sure that gets done timely. Do we have a day when he can come pick that vehicle up?
I don't know. I would ask Pat if we have everything from the village perspective of everything that you would need.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure that I complete the task by the time they're going to be willing to pick up the vehicle, so I don't want to delay it. I certainly don't want to be the one to delay it.
I would hope by this weekend that they're able to remove it.
Okay, good. All right, I'll make sure it gets done then. We have a prospective member that had applied to the fire department. He has passed the membership vote. He's passed the council vote. His name is Paul Vigilante. I know you know the family very well. He just moved in behind the firehouse. I do not have his application to email to the trustees at this time, but I will email it.
Yeah, look at the back of the back section of
We have it.
Section 8 in the book. We have the application and we have the background check.
So just to give you a little, a little bit about this gentleman, he did serve 4.5 years with the Smithtown Fire Department. He is already trained. Obviously, we'll need to get caught up, but well-known family in the community, solid guy. I met him the other day. I think he'll be a great addition to the fire department.
I agree. Paul Vigilante is Henry Vigilante's son of Branch Funeral Home. Paul has been managing the family's funeral home out in Miller Place. And as one of the reasons that he was no longer able to stay active with Smithtown, but in speaking with some of the old timers up there, they gave a very, very good account of him. I think we're very fortunate to have Paul interested in joining our department. And the fact that he's next door, he and his wife bought Jack Lawrence's old horse farm on Long Beach Road. So he's right next to the fire department. Wonderful family, first class gentleman. I think he'll be a strong addition to the department. So unless there's any questions, I'll make the motion to approve Paul Vigilante as a member of the Nissequogue Fire Department.
I'll second it. Michael.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Just another, everybody, Paul Vigilante has done some landscaping above the firehouse to prevent water from coming down that hill. He's put a lot of money and effort into it as well. He's working with one of the other village residents we have, so he's really trying to help out, which is great.
Sure is.
It's bigly auntie.
where did that pen drop to? Whenever I drop it, I can never find the damn thing.
I believe that was Jim. Is the correct pronunciation Viglianti?
Yeah, that's how it's spelled. Everybody says the vigilante for those guys, but they're all Vigliantes.
Viglianti. Okay, thank you. All right. So I also, we're currently working on our 22-23 budget, preparing that and going with the officers of the department. I was looking for a little direction from either Pat or the trustees on when that exactly is due so that we are timely.
Is Pat on?
Yes.
Yes,
Usually do it at the beginning.
yes, it'll be due mid-February.
Mid-February. All right. So can I just use like a 2/15 day? Is that okay? I don't even know what day of the week that is, but around that time?
That's perfect.
Okay.
George, do you want to bring up the other question you had for me about setting aside a partial account of the active budget? Or do you want to go in executive session?
No, I think Richard was able to answer that for me. So I think we're good at that, with that point right now.
All right, great, thank you.
Sexual harassment we dealt with. So the only other thing I have, I just wanted to get some update on you had mentioned about the boat, Richard, on where that's, where in the process that is.
We'll get there in a moment. So that just to reconfirm that the requested budget from the fire department should be into Pat by the 15th of February. I just noticed Chris is on the phone. Chris, are you on? Chief Chris Knott? Chris, are you on mute?
Richard, he was taking a class. I don't know if he was just
I know,
listening in.
he had communicated. I just see Chris's iPhone.
He may be listening, he's out in Sag Harbor. Probably can't respond. He's in a class right now.
I thought he was. Okay. Well, let's talk about this then. One of the things that we've been talking about for several years has been really the need to assist the fire department in rescues, primarily on the Nissequogue River, but also Stony Brook Harbor. We probably get called out 6 to 8 times a year to rescue people who have run out of tide and they step out of their canoe or their kayak, being very unfamiliar with the tidal activity of the river, and they get stuck, and it's a serious matter. And in years past, Kings Park has had to come up. Occasionally, I think it's West Islip Fire Department, which has a small hovercraft, comes up and rescues these people and all. And I've been looking at different options, and I've spoken to the chiefs and a few of the officers in the fire department, I think to Michael as well. One of the things I'd like us to consider is to go out and request bids for a mud rescue boat. If there's water, the people are not typically stepping out, and if there is, the harbor master or one of their boats can come into the river and rescue the person. But the problem is when the tide goes out, no boat in the harbor master's armada is able to navigate in, 4 inches of water or mud flats or cross grass islands. There are several boats that are designed to do just that. They have a special engine that will take the boat through mud, over grass islands, through 4 inches of water, things of that nature. It's not a terribly expensive boat. With the trailer, the ones that I've spoken to, 2 manufacturers, 2 independent manufacturers in Louisiana. One is the Go Devil Boat Company, and the other one is Gator Tail. The same concept. It's an offset engine, and either an 18 or a 20-foot flat bottom aluminum boat. They typically priced with trailer about $28,000. And I think it's something that we should look at considering. We had a father and son get stuck on the river right opposite John Moore's house, if everyone's familiar with that, right on River Road. And actually Kings Park had an extremely tough time reaching them and all. This is something that we have a very active fire department. And I think a boat such as this, it's not meant for going out to the sound and rescuing, missing boaters and things. It's meant to retrieve people who get in trouble on the river or on the harbor, which, if you look at the overlay map, we're responsible for. That's part of the Nissequogue Fire Department's domain or responsibility, and we're not meeting that. And I think for a reasonable amount of money, and I'm pegging that at $28,000, I'd like us to consider getting that. So I just throw that open for discussion.
I couldn't agree with you more, Rich. It's, there's many more calls that we don't even get called to because of the lack of a boat, that the resource would be greatly needed, not just for our side of the river, but for both sides of the river. So, you'd have, it'd be very, very favorable for the fire department to have that resource.
George is correct. It's at least triple the amount of calls that we don't get called on.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, you have something to add,
Yeah,
please.
we've been discussing this anecdotally for the last 6 months or even longer than that. The price is right for this. Basically for me, it's just a matter of maintenance and where to keep it. Otherwise, I think it's a great idea. We really should have something like this. So,
yeah. Kurt, what's your take on this, please?
I'm all in favor of it. I have a good feeling about it, so.
Yep. Maureen, what's your take?
I think the price is reasonable and there's a need. I would be in favor of it.
Yeah. So what I would like to do is to look for a motion authorizing the village clerk to publish requests for bids for said boat. I've gotten spec packages from these two companies. We'll have to find a third one at a minimum, but I think we need to, in the next month or two, publish requests for bids from these manufacturers. What makes it special, it's not a conventional outboard. It is, it's an elongated, let me see if I can, the shaft, instead of going down like this to the water, it's like this. And you can see it if you go and just look at a YouTube video, put up either Gator Tail boats or Go Devil boats. And it's very illustrative in seeing their videos on what they're capable of doing. And I spoke to the owner of Go Devil boats, probably half a year ago, and got a full spec package, including the trailer. And that's 25 to 28,000, depending on the size. We won't need anything larger than 20 feet. Most of them are 18 to about 25 feet, but I think an 18 to a 20 foot is more than sufficient for us. But the real beauty of it is the special outboard engine that it uses to traverse an absolute mudflat, no water at all, going over the grass islands. The videos really tell the story, I think. So I'd like to get a motion in a second to authorize the village clerk to put out requests for bids for a fire department rescue boat and trailer.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That is that. Okay. Any other questions for George with the fire department, please?
Yeah, George, how was the search for the engine going?
I'm sorry?
So Michael's question. No, it's going pretty well. We got our first renderings. Basically the way the engines are set up now, they're floating tanks. They're you can basically design them. And what we're looking to do now is get different ideas of what's possible and not possible. So we've got our first 3D renderings of what it could potentially look like. Once we've ironed out exactly how we'd like the rig to look in a perfect world, at that point, we'll, reach out to the 5 or 6 major manufacturers. We'll give them those specs. They'll begin to put forth some pricing on what it would take to make them the way we'd like them. And then we'll, obviously once we get that pricing, we'll move it on to the village, and then you guys can debate on what we can and can't do.
Okay.
How's the bylaws go?
Bylaws is going to take a little bit of time. Honestly, I'm jammed with work. So we've met and reviewed the bylaws with the council. The council had their input and some changes that they'd like to make. I now have to take those changes and speak with the attorney that drew up the original agreement, review those with him, make those changes or not make the changes depending on what they say, get the a finalized version. At that point, review it with council. Then it would have to be posted for membership for a minimum of 30 days. And then after that, the council can then approve them and then bring them over to the village for their review.
That's great. There's a lot of stuff going on. I appreciate it, George.
No
One
problem.
other thing that I wanted to discuss, I just had made a note I want to reference. Michael can certainly relate to this from his time, and George, but I'm getting not only annoyed but concerned with what appears to me a high frequency of false alarms or central station alarms, and specifically with the Knox School, which I believe carries the greatest exposure for the village and for the village fire department as far as property and life. And it seems that we get into periods of time when we're getting a lot of calls to go down there, and whether their alarms are too sensitive or they're too close to heating source, I don't know what the issue is, but I'm concerned that it will eventually get to the point where people will not come out for an alarm at the Knox School because of the great frequency of false alarms, when in fact there's an actual problem. We can't have that. I've been looking online and I've been reading other village codes. And I know up in the Kingston area, a number of the villages and towns over the last several years have enacted false alarm fines in their code, such that after 2 false alarms in any 12-month period, the third false alarm would be a $100 fine. Every subsequent one after that, $250. So I don't know if that's the denomination. I don't know if this is something that we're really looking to pursue, but it just seems to me it's very discouraging, I think, to the men and women of the fire department that break whatever they're doing, whether it's family or work, but they all sacrifice, all come down. And when you have a couple constant repeat offenders on these false alarms, I think it's very discouraging and quite honestly disrespectful. And I think we should look to address that. So the idea being, yeah. Who was speaking?
The Knox School's been very cooperative with the fire department and with the police department. I think what we should do is get a hold of the fire marshals and let them go down and do a review for us. So we can request that. Let's let town fire marshals go down and let them check out the system and give them suggestions how to correct it. I mean, I don't know if the fine is the thing that's going to stop them, but I think maybe doing it